everyone. Welcome to another weekly recap of Trinidad Bhojpuri words and phrase. So we had a great week. We had Pagla Pagli, we had Gumsai Gumsai, we had Kabhail, ANDHAAWAY, and OUNTAY. So let's get started. Chalo.
So this is the star. Right, they're doing it like this, right? The mashing up so.
Hello everyone, I'm Karen Das.
And hey everyone, I'm Vinay Harrichan. I'm the founder and curator of the Cutlass magazine.
Great. So we had another vibrant week with words that were supplied by Vinay of the Cutlass magazine and lively interaction on social media, as well as on the radio show and even through physical interactions this week, even up to today, the day of recording. Lots of folks actually reached out to me about some of these words. So Vinay, let's get started. We started the week with Manic Monday, Pagla, Pagli. I want to acknowledge Betty. Betty said that she remembered her childhood days. She said a really nice expression. Eh, Pagli, auna beti. So, Pagla, Pagli.
Yeah, so there's actually a lot of people in my family also with the nickname Pagla or Pagli. And Pagla is essentially a man who's crazy or mad, and Pagli is a woman who's crazy or mad. So madman, Pagla, madwoman, Pagli. And that's why you can see it typically is a very common, affectionate nickname for a lot of people. I noticed a lot of people in the comments were just answering crazy because they might know the word pagal, as in like Dil to Pagal Hai, that movie. Pagal means crazy, but Pagla and Pagli are specifically a crazy man and a crazy woman.
It's funny how many of us were quick to identify with that. Moving on to Tuesday. On Tuesday, we activated the olfactory system with Gumsai Gumsai. Now, I have to confess that on the radio show, listeners immediately texted in smelly, rancid, funky. In my physical interactions with people, the facial expression just pretty much said it all.
Do not go in there. Woo!
So Gumsai.
Yeah, so Gumsai Gumsai, and typically in Hindustani, when you see words repeated twice, it's for emphasis. So Gumsai Gumsai is something that smells very foul, rancid, and is in desperate need of being washed. So it's not just, a typically bad smelling thing. It has that extra connotation of being very foul smelling, being very rancid, and so Gumsai Gumsai.
And for some of the others as well, including myself, we learned a new word or a new term, Gumsai Gumsai. I also picked up on this one. Someone said to me today that she was not familiar with Gumsai, but she heard growing up Bahut Basala.
I think Basala has the definition of something that is stale. Typically with Gumsai, maybe might hear it with, for example, pots that have been left with, leftover food in them.
Yes.
It's starting to rot, or clothes that is very sweaty that has gone a long time without being washed. So that's the context of Gumsai, but Basala might be something that is very stale.
I think I'd agree with you there because I remember the word basi, and basi would be used to refer to stale roti or roti that was left over the next day.
Yeah.
Basala. All right. So on Wednesday, we usually go with a phrase or expression, and we went with a very easy breezy one, Kabhail. And it's a really nice phrase or expression because this can be used with everyday interaction, everyday conversation, and it's something that we actually do say, except not in Bhojpuri. But every day, you meet up a friend, you meet your neighbor, and you go, what's happening? In Trinidad slang, what's up? Where's the scene? Hey man, how's it going? So would Kabhail mean the same as those?
Yeah, I think probably the most appropriate Trinidadian equivalent would be what happened. So Kabhail, typically the ka means what, and bail means happened. So
Mm.
kabail is often used for something in past tense. So I know some people are commenting and saying maybe it meant, what is happening or how are you?
Mhm.
Those would be more in present tense.
Mhm.
The use of kabail is usually past tense. So what happened, what has already taken place.
And it's really to find out how someone is doing,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? You
And
can use it like that, like rather than it's just not just out of concern, but
mhm.
it can also be that casual
Yes.
question
How
you
you,
ask someone, what happened?
mhm. Yeah, exactly. Like if something happened, an event that maybe happened, or it doesn't have to be always in a negative context.
Yes. Okay, so Kabhail. And we also had a response, na kuch nahi. Um, of course, if you ask a Trini, Kabhail, brace yourself because the opening line would be, well, boy, and then you have that a long expression of everything that happened. So Kabhail, I love it, I love it, I love it. Nalini in Suriname gave us a nice one. Hal chal kaise? How are you?
Hmm.
Sudhir in Fiji, hal chal sab theek tak. So I suppose those would also be used in Bhojpuri outside of Trinidad.
Hmm.
Okay, so Kabhail was on Wednesday. Thursday, well, a kitchen chore that many of us try to avoid as much as possible, which would be washing dishes, washing wares, washing bartan. But when you do, the other step would be to undhawe the bartan.
Yes, exactly. And I have heard some people say undawe. That's the way I've heard it mostly, but I know some people might also use andawe. And you
Mhm.
also find that switch of an A and an O or U in Trinidad Bhojpuri, which is why some people might know my, meaning mother, and some people might know moy, meaning mother. So you
Yes.
notice the A and the O switch over there. So it's very likely that that's why some people might know andawe and some people might know undawe, which means to just flip over something. Now, I
Mhm.
think in context, a lot of people know that you undawe the bartan and put it on the machan to let the water drain out, but it
Mhm.
can also be used for anything else, anything that you're flipping over. So you can undawe a cushion, you can undawe a chair. It doesn't just have to be bartan or wares or dishes.
Oh, right. Okay. So just to turn something upside down or to flip.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, undhawe. And on Friday, food
Mhm,
related word. And I have to say, this was my most favorite word of the week. Why? Because of the interaction and the chatter that went on social media on Facebook. So we had the word "ounte,"
mhm,
"ounte," not to be confused with "ounche," but I realized that on the comment section, many people got carried away with "ounche,"
mhm.
and that the conversation generated. That is the most fascinating thing because then you pick up on so many parts of our culture, so many rituals that we sometimes take for granted. So we learned about "ounche" in a totally different context. But "ounte," Vinay, let's start with the word "ounte." So "ounte" is to.
Yes, auntie is to boil something at a very low heat to let it simmer, and typically, traditionally, that would be when you auntie dood or auntie milk and you put it on low heat on a chulha and you let it kind of simmer or boil at a very slow heat or low heat at a slow pace, and then that's when you scrape off the sarhi and you make ghee or dahi, but it's to boil at a very low heat. I know some people were commenting and saying to boil, but aunque has a very specific context or connotation of being at a low heat, not at a very high heat.
Right. So the few people who did message the correct answer on Facebook as well as on radio, they made reference to milk, the
Hmm.
boiling of milk. And it
Hmm.
would make sense because you can't boil that on a high heat anyway.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So that is onte, and
Hmm.
of course onche. But this is the fascinating part for me because so many people made mention of onche as part of a cooking ritual as well. Ritual is done before you cook, where many of us always thought that onche was only related to the removal of nadjar with babies or children or even adults. But I
Yes.
had no idea that this was actually a word that the word that was also used with cooking.
Yes, and I believe that aunche typically it has to do with the circular motion of something. And so a lot of people mention that they would fill a lota with milk and coins, and they would use that to aunche a oven or aunche a chulha or a pot. And it's because they're taking the lota and moving it in that circular direction there. Or it could just be that they're using different ingredients to take off that nudger when they're going to cook. But I think aunche has that specific context of doing something in a clockwise motion and using it for a nudger, whether it's taking the nudger off a baby or taking the nudger off of a pot that you're about to use to cook with.
Oh, so you see, this is why we can't just give the word and the meaning at the same time, because how would we have known all of this was going to happen on social media? So this is great. Thank you everybody for messaging in, for commenting, for sending your contributions, and thank you for contributing words as well as we move along into a new year of Trinidad Bhojpuri words and phrase. And there will be some subtle changes taking place on this feature, so we're going to include some more elements to the feature to make it a lot more interactive and of course interesting. So Vinay of the Cutlass magazine, just remind us of how folks can get in touch with you.
Yes, you can follow the page at Cutlass Magazine on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or you can always reach out to me, cutlasspodcast@gmail.com.